Well, William Ralph rightly said, the aim of education is not the knowledge of fact, but of values. A very good morning to our distinguished dignitaries, authorities and students. On behalf of Maharaja Agrasen Institute of Management Studies, Department of Law, I, Grashata Chopra,
and I, Ritika Bansal,
take the pleasure to welcome you all to the inaugural ceremony of two-day international conference Iptc 2022 in collaboration with the Mediterranean University of Reggio Calabria, Italy and the Federal District University Center, UDF, Brazil. The theme of the conference is interdisciplinary aspects of IPR, technology and competition laws. It is on occasions like these we get opportunities to test our knowledge and understanding. We look forward to getting an exposure about what the best of minds think about this very dynamic issue of IPR, technology and competition. Saraswati Mahavidya, Veena Pustaka Dharani, Hans Vahini, Samra Arund Vidya Buddhi Dadatu mein.
Every grand celebration requires the blessing of Almighty. Today, we seek the blessings of Goddess Ma Saraswati, who is the epitome of intelligence, consciousness, cosmic knowledge, creativity, education, enlightenment, power and divine knowledge. Now, I would like to request Anshumita Taparia, student of 5th semester BBLLB, to offer our prayers to Goddess Ma Saraswati with her dance performance. It is said that offering prayers to Goddess Ma Saraswati changes the aura, the places, people and surroundings, and I hope we can all sense those positive vibes around us, especially the students of BALLB, BBLLB and LLM beginning their new journey with us. Now, I would like to request all the dignitaries to kindly come on the stage for the lighting of the lamp.
Now, I request our Director General, Sir, Professor Dr. S.K. Garg, to please felicitate our guest of honor, Professor Dr. Alka Chawla. A big round of applause, please. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Now, I would request our director, ma'am, Professor Dr. Rajni Malhotra Dhingra, to kindly felicitate Ms. Jyoti. Now, I request Rajni sir's secretary mates to please do the felicitation. Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. Moving forward, I would like to invite Dr. Nisha Dhanraj Tiwani, Faculty Convener, Associate Professor, Maharaja Agrasen Institute of Management Studies, to present her introductory remarks.
Thank you so much, Ms. Grishita and Ms. Ritika, for this great beginning of International Conference on Interdisciplinary Aspect of IPR, Technology and Competition Law, in short, Iptc 2022. As Ms. Grishita has already announced our supports and blessing forces, I again extend my warm welcome to all the dignitaries in the dais. I heartily welcome our guest of honor, Professor Dr. Alka Chawla from Faculty of Law, Delhi University. Our another guest of honor, Ms. Jyoti Jingda Bhanot, Secretary, Competition Commission of India. Professor Angelo Ferraro, Aggregate Professor at Mediterranean University of Reggio Calabria, Italy. Professor Paulo Campana from Federal District University Center, UDF, Brazil. Our founder, chairman and chief advisor, Maharaja Agrasen, and Chancellor of Maharaja Agrasen University, Baddi, Himachal Pradesh, Dr. Nand Kishore Garg ji. Shri S.P. Agarwal ji, Executive Chairman Mates. Mr. Rajneesh Gupta, Secretary Mates. Director General of Maharaja Agrasen Institute of Management Studies, Professor S.K. Garg. Professor G.P. Govil, Advisor Mates. Our Director of Mains, Professor Dr. Rajni Malhotra Dhingra, Dr. Praveen Kumar Gupta, Head of Department Law, and the heads of all the other departments and students of all the semesters, including first year students of BBA LLB, BA LLB, first year LLM, I heartily welcome you all. Also, Professor Angelo, Professor Polo, our Chief Advisor, Dr. Nand Kishore Garg ji and S.P. Agarwal sir, they all are joining us virtually. I heartily welcome you also. No day was better than this, where in one way we are inaugurating our international conference, and the other day we are welcoming our students of undergraduate and postgraduate. Before to start with Iptc 2022, let me introduce our college to the August gathering. Maharaja Agrasen Institute of Management Studies was established in 2003 by Maharaja Agrasen Technical Education Society. Since then, this institution has acquired the fame and high spirit in the field of higher education. Our institution has achieved distinct position in running the courses like BBA, BCom, BA Eco Honors, BJMC, BA LLB, BBA LLB integrated courses, and LLM in IPR affiliated to GJSIP University, Delhi. The Department of Law was established in the year of 2017. Our institution is one of the best institutions among the institutions of Guru Gobind Singh in the Prastha University in Delhi NCR, because it aims at providing value-added quality education to achieve greater heights in the domain of legal studies. Now let me touch upon the objectives of IPTC 2022. The purpose of this international conference is to develop an understanding between IPR and competition law in the light of emerging technological development. I would like to apprise you all that we have received more than 100 registrations and approximately 65 full paper submission. This conference will be for 2 days, having 7 technical sessions, 1 panel discussion, and 1 special lecture. This conference is covering the main areas like IPR as a driver of knowledge economy, IP protection and public health, legal prospectus and challenges of a globalized and digitalized world, cybersecurity and competition law. We have been really grateful that we got into global collaboration with many foreign universities from USA, Iran, Vietnam, Nigeria, apart from the collaboration as mentioned by Ms. Grishita from Italy and Brazil. I would like to mention that to provide productive learning to our participants, we organized panel discussion on the issue of global challenges of IP and competition law in the new digital era this morning at 10, which was joined by Professor Dr. Sam Gounder from RMIT University, Vietnam, Professor Sunanda Bharti from CLC1, Faculty of Law, Delhi University, and Professor Anuj Kumar Vaksha from IP University. In the last, I would say that innovation is the key to the progress of any country, and every country needs to develop an innovative system with fair competition, which is leading to the growth of any country. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for those introductory remarks and counting the blessings of our higher dignitaries.
Now, I would like to introduce Director General MAIMS, Professor Dr. S.K. Garg sir, whose guidance and constant support has helped MAIMS to grow in leaps and bounds. Sir joined MAIMS as Director General in August 2019 after retirement from Deen Dayal Upadhyay University of Delhi University, where he served as principal for over 2 decades. In his 42 years of rich career, he has been a member of various committees of Delhi University, University Grant Commission, and Ministry of Human Resource Development, including the National Knowledge Commission's Working Group on Higher Education. Sir has 16 publications and many awards to his credit, including the Ambassador of Peace by Universal Peace Federation. Now, I would like to request our Director General Sir to kindly address the gathering. Please, sir.
Respected guests, Professor Alka Chawla, who is Professor in Charge, Campus Law Center of Delhi University, Ms. Jyoti Bhanot, Secretary, Competition Commission of India, Professor Angela Ferraro, Aggregate Professor at Mediterranean University, Italy, Professor Paulo Companha, Federal District University Center, UDF, Brazil, Dr. Nankishore Garg, our founder chairman and Chancellor Maharaja Agrisena University, Shri S.P. Agarwal, Executive Chairman, Shri Rajneesh Gupta, Secretary, Dr. Rajni Malhotra Dhingra, Director, MAIMS, all the heads of the departments, my colleagues and dear students. I think this conference, this international conference on the theme interdisciplinary aspects of IPR, technology and competition law is quite appropriate, more so for a person who is a layman so far as law is concerned. Why I am saying so is, this issue of IPR came into prominence about 2 decades ago, when some scientists from the West started laying their claim on BT cotton. Now, BT cotton was one product which was grown in our country since centuries. And this became known to us that somebody else is claiming an intellectual property right over it much late. In fact, probably the paper formalities had already been done, documentation had already been done. And this issue was boiling when another issue arose. And that was that somebody from the West again tried to patent the basmati rice, which in our country has been consumed since ages. And turmeric followed in the row. Some people tried to claim the medical benefits of turmeric as if it is their discovery. Whereas in our Ayurvedic system, in our Indian systems of medicine, turmeric is known to be an antiseptic. In every household across the country, it's being used. Whenever you are hurt by something, you take a spoon of turmeric, mix it with milk and consume it. And it is helpful. It indeed is helpful. I was wondering, how do you look at the interdisciplinary aspects in topics as diverse as intellectual property rights, then technology, and then competition law? I am still amused as to what kind of papers will emerge. Sure, it will be quite interesting to go through the proceedings of this conference because I will not be able to attend all the sessions in person. But these proceedings are going to be quite interesting to go through. And those delegates, I'm told 100 plus registrations are there, and about 65 people are making their presentations. So the outcome of this would be published, I suppose, and this publication would prove to be a very useful document to be used not only by the students but maybe by the policymakers as well. These words, I welcome you all to this inaugural session of this conference and wish this conference a grand success. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for your enlightening address. We are indeed fortunate to have with us today various distinguished guests, luminaries and experts to grace the occasion. It gives me immense pleasure to share with you all that our institute has signed a Memorandum of Understanding with two esteemed organizations, Mediterranean University of Reggio Calabria, Italy and the Federal District University Center, UDF Brazil in the month of August-September 2022. Here's a video of that.
We hope that this collaboration brings many opportunities for our students and faculty members. It is my proud privilege to call Professor Paulo Campana Santana, Coordinator of Master in Law Program and the Undergraduate in Law. Sir is currently the Coordinator of Stricto Sensu Program, Academic Master's Degree in Social and Labor Relations Law and the Law Undergraduate course, Researcher of the Research Group, Social Human Rights, Public Policies and the Work Environment and Editor-in-Chief of the journal Cardenas de Law of the University Center of the Federal District UDF, Brazil. I request Sir to please mark the session and provide us an experience of his expertise. Professor Paulo, are you there?
Yes, okay, sorry. Hello, good morning, everyone. It's a great, I'm Professor Paulo Campanha. It's a great honor to stay here with Dr. Nand and Professor Angela, my eternal director of my postdoctoral program, and in all this audience. It's really a great honor for me. Now Brazil is 3 a.m. in the morning. It's a great, so far, but not so, because the technology facilitates our proximity. I'm very proud to stay here, and I would like to congratulate the Institute of, one moment, to don't say wrong, the Institute Mahara Agreement Institute of Managing Studies, and I would like to greet Dr. Nancy Garg, that's here, and Professor S.K. Garg, that's also here, and Professor Malhotra Digra is here too. And I would like to talk a little bit on this inaugural ceremony, that the importance of the subject of conference, and I would like to congratulate the choice to choose the people that choose this subject, because the moment the technology and competition law, it's not a local problem, it's a global challenge that we have, and I would like to share on this screen that our collaboration, it's a challenge for everyone in the country, because we are now living the moment that not only the technology, because nowadays we live in this moment in that the technology will be very development, and we have the artificial intelligence, and this change all the world, because the artificial intelligence is the different that the natural intelligence, the picture that we see above that with the children. And now we have a moment in the middle of the last century, and we had the different system, intelligence systems, and to have the human interrogator didn't know who is the machine and who is the human. But nowadays we have a lot of systems that we have in our data, because not only the people are connected, but the things are connected too. In this moment, and this puts us, all of us, in that we call a big data, a big data era, that we have our data and the data of the all connects that we have in this economy data. And the data that we all know that is the called by the new oil, because the new oil, we need to treat this oil, and to have in this moment with the artificial intelligence, and to have a lot of phase of different artificial intelligence, because we have machine learning, deep learning, and other ways in the artificial intelligence. We have to treat this data, and what we call my data mining. And only this picture to see the big challenge that you have, only in WhatsApp, that we have in 2016, we had 20 million messages per second, and last year in 2021 we have 3 times more, and in this number almost 70 million messages per second, only in WhatsApp. And we have all this social media to show us what's the difference of in only 5 years. And we have, I had the opportunity to participate in the last panel that talking us about the big five, that they are. We have a philosopher in France called Pierre Levy that said that nowadays this big five is now the new state, and this only to show the difference, because each one of them you have a lot of other social media connected in the domain of them. In only the Google you have, and you may see when you are research something in the Google, when you connect your YouTube, though you have a message that's something that you like to purchase, or something that you are researching. And this is the big challenge that we search us in the competition law, because our data, our choice, that is in all of these big techs, and this we have a lot of messages in this always social media, trying to influence us to buy something, to choose a place to visit, because to make them in privilege than others company. And this is the photo on the different artificial intelligence that we have. And in this moment, it's very important, not only the regulation, but the responsibility too of the people that, mainly this big five and others, because we've put Alibaba and others, we have what's called the big nine. And we are responsible the regulation and the actions, liability, ownership, the pride, and others in various aspects that we have in this moment. This a photo, and we in 2010, then Mark Zuckerberg that the age of privacy is over. But in the other side, the right, is on the Capitol in Washington D.C., explaining what the data that Facebook that was spread in the world, and you have a lot of film that show us the big challenge that we are inside: code bias, privacy, hacker privacy, and dilemma of the next that we are inside. And I would like to finish my words on congratulations this time, because we are really in a big challenge nowadays in our data and our not only our country but in global, because this big techs and big nine have all of our data and make a difference in the market and the competition law. It's only the competition law may regulate them to protect us, that all they may do with our data. So I would like I will finish now, and I would like to thank you to the invitation to participate in this event and congratulate all the organizers here. Please, thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for marking your presence and sharing with us such an engaging and insightful presentation.
Adding to the grandeur, with the knowledge and experience, we have our another distinguished professor, Angelo Viglianesi Ferraro, Aggregate Professor of the Mediterranean University of Reggio Calabria, Italy. Professor Ferraro is an Aggregate Professor of the Private International Law and an Erasmus Coordinator at the Department of Law, Economics and Humanities of the Mediterranean University of Reggio Calabria, where he also acts as the head of the Mediterranean International Center of Human Rights Research and the director of a postdoctoral program in New Technologies and Law and International LLM in European Private Law. Sir has joined us from Italy. I kindly request Sir to share his views.
Thank you very much. Good morning. It's a great pleasure for me to be here. I would like to immediately say thank you to some friends like Dr. Nand Kishore. I'm happy to meet Professor Garg, Professor Malhotra, and Dr. Nisha Danrai. I hope that my pronunciation is not so bad. I think that for us it's a great honor to have this strong cooperation, this event, and many others are organized together. My center, my research center, and your great research center are doing many interesting things for Indians and not only. And I'm very happy because this year, again, we have many Indians in our postdoctoral programs. We had 75 applications, 75 candidates, very good curricula, and I don't know, about 20 or 30 are from India. So I can say that a lot of applications come from your country. And also for this reason, I decided to come and visit India. Next week I will be in New Delhi and then I'll go to Kathmandu. And I really hope that this cooperation can continue in the next years. And you all are invited, their rector, their friends, Dr. Kishore, Malhotra, Darai, Karg, all of you are invited to visit my university, my research center. And I hope really that we could continue doing something like this, one publications, postdoctoral programs, joint programs, and so on. I don't want to steal more time. I know that there are a lot of interesting speeches, so congratulations, and I hope that all these sessions will be very interesting and will produce great fruits for everybody. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for sharing your valuable knowledge.
Now, I would like to request our guest of honor, Professor Dr. Alka Chawla, Professor in charge, Campus Law Center, Delhi University, India, to kindly enlighten us with her expertise. Ma'am was figured in the top 100 powerful women in law list released by the World IP Forum in 2021 and 2017. Ma'am is nominated as a national expert on intellectual property by the European Trade and Business Council, mentor to the Intellectual Property Protection Organization, and member Education Committee, FICCI organization. She has authored 2 books on copyright law and written a number of articles and research papers in reputed journals. She has authored a report on counterfeiting and piracy in India for the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD. Professor Chawla has delivered lectures at various prestigious institutions and universities in the US, UK, France, and Switzerland. She has presented papers in seminars and workshops and is a resource person in courses conducted by the WIPO, USPTO, UGC, FICCI, and DU. Please, ma'am.
Good morning, everyone. There's a light here in my eyes, so I can't see all of you. Can we just put it down somehow? Yes. Thank you. Good morning. Thank you to everyone on the dais. I mean, all these, in the morning they use the word authorities. So thank you to all the authorities for inviting us. Good morning to all the dignitaries on the dais and to dear students. Nisha, Swati, Rajni, personal thanks to them because they are the ones who have been telling me that you must come to this place. I am not going to speak much, but definitely, Mr. Garg, I'm going to answer the question that you raised. You are amazed as to why, and many people would be amazed as to why 3 topics have been put together. I am not amazed, but I'm very happy that this university is looking forward to problems which are going to crop up and which are already coming up. So the 3 words that you have used is intellectual property. So any one of you, how do you think intellectual property helps us? You know, I'm a teacher, so I feel like asking the students. What has intellectual property done to this world?
All right, I know it's difficult to answer from the people hesitate though they know the answers. So intellectual property is something which is fostering innovation. And when you foster innovation, you know, we always talk about fostering of innovation while we are talking about patents, but there are many other aspects of intellectual property also. And the biggest thing which has happened with intellectual property, as Mr. Garg said, that it has gained importance. I'll come to that slightly later, but I would first like to focus on these three words. First of all, as I said, intellectual property is something which emerges from the intellect. Anything which emerges from the intellect is my creation, it becomes my property, so therefore, I am the one who's going to make use of it the way I want to make use of it. That is one thing. Secondly, let's come down to competition. You know, normally people many times feel that competition is a negative term. But I don't think it's purely a negative term. It's a positive term too. There is a positive aspect and there's a negative aspect. Competition inspires you to do something. So competition is necessary so that we can create more of intellectual property. But when you become too competitive, you forget the other ethical, moral values, then it tends to have a negative connotation. So the same thing happens here. When you compete, and by competition, you know, since you are the one who's more powerful, and since you're more powerful, you start creating monopolies. When you start creating monopolies, monopoly is not bad, but when you start abusing that monopolistic stature of yours, that is something which needs to be limited. So therefore, this is how we are going to, I think in the conference, people are going to connect intellectual property with competition law. And coming to the third aspect, which is technology, technology is offering various tools to us to boost the economy, to boost development, research, and everything else. We are moving forward. You know, sometimes, yesterday I was sitting somewhere, I'm a part of the ethical committee of Delhi University, and people were bringing projects, and they were talking about how cancer is to be fought and new kinds of, diseases coming up, and they were doing research in it. So I was sitting and wondering, what a useless life that I am leading. These are the people who are working on scientific aspects and taking the society forward. That is how development is taking place. But as development takes place, development gets into trade, development gets into economy, that is the time I don't feel useless. I think the lawyers have to come in, because they have to make laws to regulate the various aspects which are present there. So I felt useful also in the society, and so should all of you do it. You know, talking about again this intellectual property competition law, sir, how did you think intellectual property, because you know, since you talked about it, how did you think the intellectual property became very important? You know, I remember when I was a student, whenever like a student like you, whenever a constitutional lawyer came to give a lecture, we all used to run for the lecture, and when an IP lawyer came, we never bothered about it. But today it's just the reverse. When an intellectual property lawyer comes, we all run to listen to them, and when a constitutional lawyer comes, we will say, 75 saal ho gaye, 60 saal ho gaye, ye ho gaya, wo ho gaya, let's not go and listen to them, enough of constitution. Though I'm not saying there is something good which is happening. Now, so what turned, you know, 21st century is referred to as knowledge economy. अभी हमने सुबह सरस्वती वंदना की. आज की डेट में Saraswati is not alone. Lakshmi is not alone. There was a time when people said that Saraswati and Lakshmi are two sisters who don't look eye to eye with each other. But today, I think wherever there is Saraswati, there is Lakshmi. Lakshmi alone cannot survive, because 21st century is knowledge economy. And when we say knowledge economy, unless and until we have knowledge, we cannot go further. You know, there was a time, you must have all heard about GATT, General Agreement on Trade and Tariff. That came in 1947, when there were some countries who got together and they wanted to frame certain uniform rules with regard to trade. After that came WIPO. WIPO is the World Intellectual Property Organization, formed in 1967, though it was previous to that there was BIRPI, so I'm not going into those details, but in 1967 when WIPO came, it talked about creating certain uniform rules which the countries should follow. But when they made those uniform rules, they were only recommendatory in nature. And in 1994 came the turning point for intellectual property when World Trade Organization was formed. So with WIPO, we don't say intellectual property got so much of importance, I'll tell you why. And when WTO came in 1994, intellectual property suddenly gained importance because under WTO there were 28 agreements, and one of the agreements is agreement related to, what is it? Trade related aspects of intellectual property rights, right? The moment you say trade related aspects of intellectual property rights, intellectual property comes from a non-formal sector of economy to a formal sector of the economy. And when it comes to the formal sector of the economy, and you would always know that the moment something gets into formal sector, it starts getting importance. Just digressing because it just came to my mind, in 1977 there was a report which is called Towards Equality Report for women, and it said that whatever work women are doing at home should also be reflected in the economy, which is not being reflected, until date not being reflected. The moment that gets into the formal economic sector, you will never feel ashamed in saying that your mother is a housewife or a homemaker, whichever terminology that you want to use, because you will realize that they are contributing so much to the economy. Because if a woman is there at home looking after the home, only then can a man go forward. So putting these two analogies together, what we find out is this intellectual property, the moment from a non-formal economic sector, it gets into a formal economic sector, it starts getting money value. And so much so that in our own country, this present government, it came up with National Intellectual Property Rights Policy. And this National Intellectual Property Rights Policy came in 2016. So you can see from 1947 GATT, 1967 World Intellectual Property, 1994 World Trade Organization, which is a permanent body. It is creating mandates for the, it is creating mandates for the organizations, for the countries. It is having an enforcement system. If you don't follow the WTO mandates, then there are penalties which are imposed upon you. So when penalties are imposed and TRIPS is a part of it, that shows how important it has become, and so much so that our own government is talking intellectual property in terms of an asset. It says intellectual property is an asset. Intellectual property has monetary value. Now the moment you say it has monetary value, here comes the clash. We are all belonging to India, and India has certain philosophies, values, and today we are talking about Indianization of jurisprudence and so on and so forth, because we want to go back, because we feel that we have digressed. What is our Indian philosophy? Our Indian philosophy says, ज्ञान बढ़ाने से बढ़ता है. जितना मेरे पास ज्ञान है, अगर मैं दूसरों को दूंगी, उतना मैं बढ़ूंगी. लेकिन इंटेलेक्चुअल प्रॉपर्टी क्या बोल रही है? I need to have monopoly. संभाल के रखो अंदर, इससे बाहर नहीं निकलना चाहिए. बाहर निकलेगा तो मुझे पैसा चाहिए तुमसे, है ना? So there is a clash which is coming. Within the country itself, there is a clash which is coming. There is a set of people who feel that knowledge needs to be imparted without thinking of money, and there are others who feel, why in a capitalistic society, in a consumer society, we need to make money, and why should we not make money? So therefore it's my creation, my intellectual property, I need to get money out of it. So we have to somehow solve the conflict. But the conflict does not end here. There are so many other conflicts which are coming because of this WIPO movement to WTO. The moment WTO comes, as I said, mandates are created. When mandates are created, we are moving to the economic sector. Intellectual property is moving to trade. Intellectual property is moving to the market. Intellectual property is losing its academic value and it is getting a monetary value. And the moment this happens, the moment it enters the market needs to be regulated. So, sir, how do we regulate the market? The market has to be regulated by intellectual property laws. It has to be regulated by the competition laws. It has to be regulated by the technology which has arisen. How transfer of technology has to take place? Who is to get what amount of money? Can there be a system? You know, we keep talking about standard essential patents nowadays, and I think you must have all heard about those who've done IP. FRAND. It has to be on fair, reasonable, non-discriminatory terms. So what is all this? We are trying to bring in regulations in the market. But when regulations in the market come, this is the time when contradictions are there. And we will find out that the contradictions between intellectual property and competition law, they're not only contradictions, they need to complement each other. So first we will see how, I think most of you are going to discuss upon this, how intellectual property and competition law, they have to coexist, they have to go hand in hand, they have to be complementary with each other, but then comes a situation where there can be a contradiction. And the contradictions can arise in the socialistic world, it can arise in the capitalistic world. So if it is a capitalistic world, you will say that we need to have monopolies. But if it's a socialistic world, you will say we'll have to limit the monopolies. But there is no pure capitalism anywhere in the world and no pure socialism anywhere in the world. So therefore, there has to be a blend which has to come. But who's to look at the blend? You know, we normally say we have to balance out. I've never understood this term. Balancing is, ये सब्जी वाले तो balance कर सकते हैं, ऐसे पकड़ लेते हैं balance. There is 1 kilogram weight here and there is पालक के पत्ते कभी निकालते हैं, कभी चढ़ाते हैं, है ना? But क्या हम balance कर सकते हैं? We have to find out whosoever has whatever kind of a mentality, whatever kind of a conditioning, whatever kind of a thinking, the balance would tilt on that particular side. So when balance tilts on that side, we need to find out what is our society, what kind of a constitution do we have. Are we talking about freedom of trade and association as a fundamental right? But if it is a fundamental right, are we going to have fair practices? What are fair practices? What are reasonable practices? What kind of restrictions can be put in order to have or balance out the fundamental rights and the directive principles of state policy? So these are not as simple as one may think. One needs to ignite the minds to find out and take a holistic view of, starting from the constitution to the laws and the rules that we are framing and we are coming down to. If you look at our own intellectual property laws, the entire system of compulsory licensing, that is basically to stop competition, not to stop competition, but to regulate competition. So there are provisions in the intellectual property laws itself to prevent abuse of monopoly, to prevent abuse of dominance. Monopoly cannot be prevented, and I don't think anywhere, ma'am, we have Secretary from Competition Commission here. I think I'm not saying anything wrong. Monopolies have to be there. We cannot avoid them, but they need to be restricted. Dominance would always be there. Chanakya ne pata nahi kitne hazaron saal pehle likh dala, Matsya Nyaya. What is that? Big fish eats the small fish. And in an ocean and a sea, big fish and small fish are always present. But what we need to do is, the abuse of dominance has to be limited. So monopoly and dominance, how they need to be restricted, how they need to be regulated with technology coming up, I think these are the issues. I wish even I was here throughout, though these people are going to tell me who's stopping you. You can always be present for the conference, but because of my other commitments, I would not be present for the paper presentations, but my request to you would be that, as Mr. Garg said, that whatever report that you come up with, we would also like to have a peep into the report to see what kind of deliberations the paper presenters did here. So with this, I don't think I'll take much of your time. Congratulations for a brilliant topic, I would say. And God bless to all of you if any paper presenters are sitting here, and the students too. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your insightful address, where you apprised us with the importance of IPR and its monopoly in relation to trade and market in a very comprehensive and a lucid manner.
With immense pride, I would like to welcome Ms. Jyoti Jindkar Bhanot, Secretary, Competition Commission of India. Ma'am has worked for over 20 years in SEBI, the regulators of security market. Ma'am has handled different facets which include enforcement actions for infringement of SEBI Act, inspection of brokers, inquiry and adjudication proceedings, scrutiny of offer documents of IPO and takeovers, and many more. Ma'am has also been Additional Director General for about 5 years in the Office of Director General, Competition Commission of India. Since 2016, as Advisor CCI, Ma'am has handled work of various divisions. I would like to invite Ma'am to kindly address the meeting. Please, Ma'am.
Organizers, distinguished speakers, and participants. It's indeed a matter of privilege and pride for me to be here, and I thank the organizer for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts on behalf of Competition Commission of India. And at the outset, I compliment NAMES for having picked up such a relevant topic, which is such a contemporary topic, as has been spoken by my previous speakers. And definitely it would provide insights to the young budding entrepreneurs and future startup professionals and make them familiar with the regulatory compliances which perhaps they will have to face as they move on. So now coming to the topic, which is interface between intellectual property rights, technology and competition law, as has been rightly said, that intellectual property rights are derived from the intellect, and that intellect leads to innovation. And innovation is a catalyst of growth, particularly for a developing economy like ours, and going forward as we thrive to become a 5 trillion economy. Innovation is going to play a very critical role in this journey. Technology-driven changes are gaining fast adoption by the businesses across sectors, and we can all see for ourselves around us. The pandemic, in fact, has further accelerated this technology-driven delivery of services. In fact, it has become part of our day-to-day lives. And the previous speakers from other jurisdictions, they have highlighted very beautifully that how our entire life has become entrenched and driven by internet and data-centric technologies. So now in this backdrop, when we are increasingly moving towards digitalization, this digitalization trend has also thrown up a slew of novel questions and concerns for government and regulators. And in India, in fact, as I mentioned, not only in India, rather globally, we are finding that these technology-driven markets, they, with intrinsic features like network effects, scale advantages due to data, multi-product ecosystems, gatekeeper positions, they tend to be very entrenched, having entrenched market power. And in fact, it was very rightly mentioned that it is not the monopoly that we frown upon. It is the abuse that we frown upon. So by very intrinsic nature, many of these markets or the products and services, they tend to be monopolistic or at least dominant. And in this backdrop, the concern of a modern competition regulator is to ensure that these markets remain neutral. So it's not that we frown against their becoming big, but it is that in their functioning, they should be unbiased and they should remain neutral. So that is a very fundamental change or a shift from the previous competition law regimes which were there in the form of MRTP, where big itself was considered to be bad. And this is particularly true in the context of the new age markets. Now, broadly speaking, as has been said, IP regime and competition policy intersect and therefore require coordination in two areas. So to my mind, on the one hand, the definition of IPR and the circumstances in which IPRs are granted may affect competition. On the other hand, competition enforcement may affect how IPR holders can use their rights. So intellectual property and competition law serve as tools of market, different tools of market regulation, and I fully agree with when Dr. Alka Chawla ji said that these are meant to complement and not contradict. So historically, though competition law and the intellectual property rights have evolved as two separate systems of laws, but there is a very inherent interface and also a, though seemingly contradictory, but at the same time they supplement and complement each other. And coming to the technology-driven markets, so both the frameworks at one level seek to provide the industry with the incentive to innovate. And how? If the firm's IPR is protected, firms benefit and look to be more innovative to create more wealth. And if the firms face strong competition, they look to innovate to move ahead of others to create more wealth for others. So both the regimes have the same objective of providing incentives for investment in research and development and prohibiting imitations without remuneration, while at the same time maintaining competitive pressure. So the interdependence and interconnectedness of competition policy and intellectual property regime is becoming increasingly apparent with growth of high technology and IP intensive industries, and that is why these three topics have been brought together, and I'm sure the speakers, the paper presenters will bring out various nuances of this interface. Now, from the antitrust perspective, where does the antitrust law now comes into being? So the application of rules prohibiting anti-competitive behavior, they are emanating out of the Competition Act 2002. It provides that cases involving IPR require a balance between the statutory right of IPR holders and the interest of the market and public. And ma'am, you mentioned about that how difficult that it is to achieve that balance, and that is the issue which we encounter on a day-to-day basis as more and more cases come before us. And the law, the Competition Act, provides a very beautiful framework and which serves as a guidance to do this balancing act. So one is that in the form of the section 3, which provides for certain conditions which can be imposed by the IPR holders. However, the balance being that these conditions have to be fair and they have to be reasonable. So in a way, they have to be tested against the touchstone of the FRAND terms. So this is how the balancing act is sought to be achieved. And on the other hand, it is the how the commission arrives at the question of appreciable adverse effect. There are also certain positive factors and then there are certain negative factors. So we are able to take into account the efficiencies which are emanating out of these arrangements. At the same time, what are the adverse effects on competition? Another form of a balancing act which goes into this exercise. But having said that, so the ultimate, I think, in nutshell, what I'm trying to say is that the intellectual property rights do not override competition law. However, they have to be applied in a harmonized manner. And in fact, what was mentioned interestingly about the BT cotton matter, and that's another matter which came before the commission. Of course, we are in the process of looking into it. But yes, these kind of increasingly matters are coming before the Commission, where the interface of intellectual property right and competition law has to be seen, and how it kind of bears monopoly position, and whether that is being exercised in a fair and justified manner. So another important aspect of interaction of IP laws and competition law in the context of technology market is the merger control regime. So under the competition law, on one hand we have the ex post laws, which are basically the enforcement. On the other hand, we have ex ante regulations in the form of merger control regime, where at the outset, before the transactions are consummated through mergers and acquisitions, we kind of try to crystal gaze that what will be the impact of these transactions. And increasingly, what is happening is that the transactions are basically taking place because of the underlying technology which will be acquired. So again, here it is a very delicate balancing act which we have to see. We have to see whether there will be any appreciable adverse effect on competition that would result from acquisition of innovation and intellectual property rights, while at the same time ensuring that we do not get in the way of transactions that do not raise competition concerns and in fact spur technological development. Therefore, analysis of mergers in nascent and innovative sectors often trade off these two effects. On one hand, we need to assess the likelihood of merger facilitating new entry into a new fast moving sector against the risk that the other hand it may tip the market one way or the other. So, in this backdrop of new age markets where the markets are continuously evolving, what is most challenging for a regulator is to ensure that we are able to upgrade our tools and our law is also able to keep pace with these developments. And in this backdrop, the government had set up an expert committee in 2018 to see the robustness of our act and to deal with these new age market challenges. And this committee, while broadly found the law to be robust enough and broad enough to basically take care of the challenges, including those related to intellectual property rights. However, they have given certain suggestions on the basis of which the new bill has been introduced in the parliament, and which has now been referred to the standing committee. So amongst other things, now what the bill seeks to do is, earlier there was a list of intellectual property rights based on which the entities could seek certain relaxation in terms of imposition of reasonable conditions. However, now it has basically broadened the scope of this by including a residual clause which will enable CCI to take into account all kinds of IPR rights and not confine itself to the specific IPR statute which was hitherto the position. And also this new bill seeks to broaden the scope of the inter-regulatory coordination, which is another very critical area, given that CCI being the overarching market regulator, it often interfaces with other regulators, including the intellectual property right regulators. So this will allow CCI to coordinate and basically iron out any issues which may emanate out of the overlapping jurisdictions. So before I conclude, let me highlight that modern antitrust approach attempts to promote innovation and acquisition of intellectual property rights, where such efforts promote dynamic efficiency in the long run. So again, we don't focus only on the productive efficiency or the allocative efficiency, which are the traditional methods under the economic law, but the focus is on dynamic efficiency. So in the long run, in the long run, the entities are able to provide quality goods and wider choice to the benefit of consumers. So with these words, I once again thank Maharaja Agrasen Institute of Management for organizing the event and giving me this opportunity to share thoughts on the confluence of IPR, technology and competition law. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your delightful remarks.
Moving forward, I feel honored to introduce Dr. Nand Kishore Garg, Founder, Chairman and Chief Advisor, MATES, and Chancellor, Maharaja Agrasen University, Baddi, who has been a significant source of inspiration and motivation for achieving the aims and goals of the society. An eminent figure amongst the masses, Dr. Nand Kishore Garg, so with his humanitarian attribute, has always contributed selflessly not only in building the Maharaja Agrasen Technical Education Society, but also has been contributing a great deal in bringing together various driving forces who move the nation for a brighter tomorrow. Sir has joined us virtually.
Gratitude is the fairest blossom which springs from the soul. Every celebration is an experience, the external fades away and the internal lingers and echoes in the depths of our hearts. We are reminded that events like these are milestones on the journey of life and reminders of God's fidelity all through. As we come closer to the end of the inaugural ceremony, I now invite Professor Dr. Rajni Malhotra Dingra, Director MAIMS, to propose the vote of thanks.
A very good afternoon to Dr. Nand Kishore ji, Founder, Chair, and Chancellor Maharaja Agrasen University, Baddi. Professor Paulo Campana, UDF, Brazil. Professor Angelio Ferrero, Aggregate Professor, Mediterranean University. Professor Dr. Alka Chawla, Miss Jyoti Jingar from Competition Commission, Professor Dr. S.K. Garg, Director General MAIMS, Shri Rajneesh Gupta ji, Secretary Maharaja Agrasen Technical Education Society, HODs of various departments, Professor Dr. Praveen Kumar Gupta, HOD Department of Law, dear participants, students and faculty members. In modern world, where without technology, life could not be imagined. There, its protection is equally important, and this has been highlighted by the various speakers. And I formally thank Professor Paulo Campana from UDF, Brazil, for highlighting, for collaborating with us and helping and giving this assurance that in future too we will jointly organize many academic ventures. Sir has highlighted that data is the big oil, and yes, of course, its protection is difficult, but it is very much essential to save the humanity from its abuse. I thank you, sir, for joining this event. I thank Professor Angelio Ferrero, Aggregate Professor from Mediterranean University. Thanks for extending your invitation to join your university, to be there in university, to visit your university. Thank you so much, sir, for joining and signing the memorandum with us. And we hope that in future we will definitely going to organize many events with you. I thank Professor Dr. Alka Chawla, Professor in charge, CLC, for highlighting the importance of the theme selected by the team of Iptc. She highlighted that the importance of competition in life is essential for the success of the society and as an individual too. But when morality, ethics move out from this innovation, technological development and competition, then problems related with these issues crop up that need intervention of the law and regulation. Thanks for telling us, the students, that knowledge is the only way to earn wealth. Thank you so much, ma'am. I thank Ms. Jyoti Jingar Banot for highlighting that technological-driven, innovative economy need protection both at the national and international level to check on the misuse of dominant position. Thank you so much, ma'am. I thank Dr. Nandkishore founder chairman of this institution and the Chancellor of Maharaja Agrasen University, who always bless us with his kind presence. And today also, although he is not keeping well, but still he has joined us virtually and he has sent his blessing to all of us and wish the success of this event. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us and for blessing us. I also thank Shri S.P. Agarwal ji, Executive Chairman of this institution, for his kind presence virtually. I thank Professor Dr. S.K. Garg, Director General MEMS, for blessing us on continuous basis, for guiding us on continuous basis. And these kind of the events are just because of his guidance. Thank you so much, sir. I thank Shri Rajneesh Gupta ji, Secretary Maharaja Agrasen Technical Education Society, for his kind presence and for his kind support he used to give us always on each and every effort we undertake. Thank you so much, sir. I thank Dr. Praveen Kumar Gupta, HOD of Department of Law, for organizing this event and giving us this opportunity to discuss on these issues. Thank you so much. I also thank the various HODs of various departments. I'm seeing Dr. Manoj Gupta, Dr. Vanita, Professor Dr. Vanita, Professor Dr. Manju Gupta, Professor Dr. Gaurav Agarwal, the faculty present here. I also thank the team comprising of Nisha Dhanraj Divani, Miss Arushi Agarwal, Mr. Mukesh Kalwani, Miss Madhura Mohan Nikalji, Miss Tanvi Gera, and Miss Swati, Dr. Swati Bajaj. No competition, no event can take place without the support of the students. And our students are working very hard and in organizing these kind of events. So in this competition, Miss Garishita, Miss Venita, Miss Mimansa, Mr. Vibhor, Mr. Prince, Miss Ritika, and various volunteers of IPTC helped us to organize this event. I thanks from the bottom of my heart to all of you. You are the support and the pillar of this, you can say, that institution. And thank you so much for helping us to organize these kind of event. I thank all the participants who have joined us virtually and who are present here also. So I thanks all the participants to shown their interest in this relevant topic. I thanks the volunteers also and those who have registered, or the participants who wanted to be present and to see that what happened in this conference. I thank you all the participants and my dear students. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for sharing your valuable insights.
The end of the story is the beginning for the new one and many others. On this note, while ending a remarkable, memorable and knowledgeable inaugural ceremony,